My name is Robin Watton Stevens, and I manage several pages on Facebook, and I started a Facebook page in 2012. It was called Akron, Ohio News, and I was doing a page. We lost our television station several years before that, so we didn't have a TV station. We had one newspaper, we had a few radio stations, and we had news from Cleveland, and those were the only sources that, people had. So I started this page so I could go on the internet and find all these Akron stories every morning and to bring everything to one central location, and it was called Akron, Ohio News. And this was to, help citizens in Akron, but as it turned out, it became a global thing. It was, people from all over the world were looking at this page every day. And so what we did was just find Akron, Ohio news stories, weather, traffic, school closings, and that kind of thing. I've always had an interest in journalism and writing, and I wanted to do something for Akron that needed to be done, and people appreciated it, and I could do it. I had the time and everything. So that was all, and I think I did a pretty fair job. I did have another admin, and I can't divulge who the person is. They just don't want any part of this at all. And eventually it all fell in my lap, and I was doing it by myself. People seem to like it. I would get messages from different people saying this is their go-to every morning to find out what the weather was like, if their kids were going to school or not in the wintertime. I had messages from people overseas, and I remember a couple of soldiers that were stationed overseas, and they would say, I can't be in the United States. My family is in Akron, and this is one way that we can hear what's going on, the kinds of events and information, the news stories and things like that, and I can't be there, so I'm glad you're there. Even though the page, by the time we shut it down, we were up to about 9,400, but the numbers also showed there were more than, many more than that were actually using the page, but I really enjoyed doing it at the time. But then some things happened about spring-summer of 2013. I got a message and I got a video. Somebody sent a video in and wanted me to review it, and it was really good. It was called Poison in the Grapes, and we had an issue about a certain lake and some pollution that was happening. And the EPA had recently reviewed the reports from this lake. There was a reporter who was writing about the EPA's findings in a review of this lake and the pollution. It was an ongoing thing, but they were on top of it, and they had done all kinds of things to monitor the pollution and make sure that the water was that it was safe. There was a junkyard back there, or some kind of a toxic junkyard behind the lake, and so they even had to scrape all the soil and the sand and everything. And they were given it the okay, even though you can't fish in the lake, but you can still be around it. And I swam in it myself. So I put this report up at the same time that this person sent me this little movie, this little video that was talking about the EPA and talking about the pollution and the cover-up. There was he felt that there was corruption in the EPA investigation of the pollution of the lake and the land around it. And he was going to bat for the neighbors in the area who, he said, there were a lot of people. It was like a huge cancer cluster right there around the lake. And so he was standing up for them. And so, I watched the video. I thought, this, for an amateur video, this is really nice. This is really interesting. I commended the guy. Well, I did the news and this all happened. Then I went away for a while. I came back home later in the day, and the page was filled with all kinds of, he just exploded all over the page. Every post had comments that he made full of cussing and putting us down and condemning us for, you know, sharing a link to Bob Downing's article about the EPA. At the same time we posted his film. And he just, you know, so what was happening was while he was doing all this, he's like this writing a mile a minute. I couldn't even keep up. I just started deleting all the stuff, deleting his comments. I deleted the film. And I banned him, and so it would quiet down for a little bit. Then he would come back as another profile, and it didn't matter. And I reported him to Facebook, and I begged Facebook to help me deal with this, and it was just silence. So I just kept deleting posts and banning these profiles, and he started accusing me of doing all kinds of things like hurting his children and protecting corrupt government officials and leaving people to die. You know, neighborhoods are going to die and it's going to be your fault. And then he accused me, I didn't know what he was talking about, but he said he was talking about some group of stalkers, and I was part of this group, and, you know, it's just really insane. But I have screenshots. I don't know what his issue is, but I can tell you what it looks like to me, that he does have, you know, some serious personality issues. And I'm not a professional, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have seen people with these kind of behaviors before. It's like a personality disorder. Okay. I'm looking at some of the screenshots that I had from those early days, and these were personal, private messages to the Facebook page, and he was angry because I posted the link to Bob Downing's EPA story, and he said I posted a response that had nothing to do with my film, nothing, making my film look bad. Like I said, everything everyone is doing to me right now is on film, so he's filming what's happening on this page. You just don't want to admit you were wrong. You are not a journalist. Stop pretending to be one and hurting my work. And you're deleting the film after posting propaganda shows exactly where your motives lie. And he's talking about posting links to propaganda that have nothing to do with the film. And, you know, my thing is, like, your film has nothing to do with my page. You know, this is not going to turn into, you know, your page. This is still Akron, Ohio news. And I'm still going to post the news and I tried to be like a journalist. I tried to think like a journalist and be objective and present different sides of the issue. But he wanted it seemed to me, he wanted it to be all about him. He was saying that people were sick and dying in this neighborhood and that I didn't care about them. I don't care if they live or die. He said, that is a fact, and I'm going to state the fact in the film that you are now in. I'm going to show how people decide they don't like me and then turn on me, and they're willing to let hundreds of people die in the process. I'm going to show how you posted misinformation and tried to pass it off as, quote-unquote, coloring the story. I don't know where he got that from, but he does that. I'm going to show the whole progression of how your statements about your analytics were wrong and how your organization took a shot at me from going to my site and posted links to the propaganda. I don't know what he is talking about there. He said, I can also show that you weren't really trying to help me. Now were you? You were paying attention to my project because 2 days before you posted that bogus article, I had already posted it with a response. How could you be supporting my project if you didn't see that I had already shared that information with a response? I didn't know who he was. So how could I know that he posted that same article on his page? You know, so he's just like being all about me, and why aren't you looking at me? You're not paying attention to me, my project, you know? Well, I don't even know who you are, and I don't know what you're talking about, you know? So this was a lot of this, like, right off the bat, right from the beginning, accusing me of posting propaganda and misinformation, and then at other times he would accuse me of protecting corrupt officials, posting his kids' addresses and phone numbers and whatnot on the internet, and I'm like, I had no idea. But eventually, he did kind of, I guess he lost interest because I just started to ignore him. I didn't respond anymore. And when he would post something or send a message, I just ignored it. I would delete it off the page. But then I started saving screenshots, and I didn't respond. So I have a number of aliases, screenshots of different, you know, Facebook profiles that he used, and things where he tried to intimidate me and tried to pretend that he had some kind of authority. And, you know, like he wants to know, I don't know what he was talking about, but he said, oh, in this one communication, all I have to say is probably be best if you handed over all your communications with them, meaning whoever those stalkers were back there. And this could have been 2013, 2014, 2015. It might have been 2015. So he's going to reach out to his friends with the Akron Police Department and hand them this information. If not, you will be served with a lawsuit, and a federal judge will order your communications to be handed over. So I had already contacted somebody in the Akron Police Department, and so here he's threatening me with a lawsuit, and he's talking about, you know, going to the police department. He's trying to use these intimidation tactics, but I know that it was baloney. I didn't respond to it at all. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. I mean, there's just so much. He said that one of the communications said, you're going to stop publicly harassing Matthew Berdyck. Well, this is himself, you know. You have publicly admitted your affiliation with this group, you stalkers, I guess. Now I can finally file police reports and sue as soon as I make a phone call in the morning and get your name. And he did eventually get my name. He found out who I was. And here we go. I assure you, for publicly threatening my daughter and publicly accusing me of killing my friend's mom, exploiting the death of an old lady, and everything else you have done to me, once I get a name, I am filing a report with Child Protective Services in Akron and showing them your public attempts to harm my child. I didn't know any of this stuff. I didn't know what he was talking about until I Googled him, and all this weird stuff came up, and, you know, continued to come up, and I saw some of the blogs that we talked about that where, you know, they were harassing him. But there were some things that also led me to believe that some of these blogs were written by himself. Like, he's actually doing this himself, I guess, to get different people to come to these blogs and comment so he could harass them further, to bait them. And I have my reasons for believing, and there's one blog in particular that I do have a lot of screenshots, and it was one that I got sucked into. And I made a mistake and made a comment about my experience with the person, not knowing that it was this person that actually, I believe, put the blog up in the first place. And that opened the door again for more harassment of me. And that was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. It just went on and on. So anyway, the next thing, I continued to, he kind of went away for a while. And I kind of forgot about him. He wasn't harassing the page anymore. And I wanted to, like I said, there was also a website that was connected to the Facebook page. I had to take the website down because I didn't want any connection to who I was. Because through that website, he could find out who I was because my name was on it. So I set up a decoy person, and her name was Twinkle Toes Marmoset. And she had a page, and she had a personality, and he didn't know who I was. Well, somehow, I don't know how I do know how. Yep, I know how. I made a comment on YouTube. I just figured it out because I was talking about, it was under my name, and I was talking about the page and the group, and that's how he put it together. So he must have been, I don't know, like searching through YouTube to find comments about, and it had nothing to do with him anyway. You know, I don't even know. It was a totally unrelated video, how I appreciated this person for doing this, for contributing to the page and the group. And everybody loved him. He's a nice personality, a nice guy. And I was just commending him. Before I could actually go in and take control of that group, it's my own profile. He had the Twinkle Toes profile deleted. He reported her, and what ended up happening was you have a group that has no admins. There's no one at the helm, and it's probably still floating around out there, and people are putting porn and other kinds of crazy stuff on the group. So that was the end of that. But he wrote about it. He had a blog where he posted this thing about Twinkle Toes and, you know, Akron, Ohio News. Are they harassing my daughter? Okay, it says, is Akron, Ohio News working to harass my daughter? And then he said, there is a violently harassing blog out there that is publishing my daughter's address, that is harassing the living out of me, run by a person who has been harassing me, my friends, my family, for almost 3 years. But even then, I don't know who runs Akron, Ohio News. I have spoken to the admin, but when you speak to the admin of a page, it doesn't share their identity. This scumbag has been sitting out there harassing me and my children for 2 years. Some trifling ass trying to get me thrown in jail over something that never happened. I'm so glad I left Akron and I don't have trash like this in my life. So now he knows who I am. He has Twinkle Toes taken down. He's after, you know, every few months he would come back to Akron, Ohio News Facebook page and private message as some other person. You know, he always used lots and lots of aliases. So he said, you are going to stop publicly harassing Matthew Berdyck. He said, I publicly admitted I had an affiliation with this group, and at the time, I was not. I don't believe I was communicating to maybe one person, and I had no idea what he was talking about until I Googled, and, you know, all these different blogs came up. So it looks like there were some people who were not actually stalking. They were just posting the screenshots of, you know, what he was doing, but they were kind of banding together, it looked like. And they were blogs about the screenshots. And then other people would come and make comments, and sometimes they weren't nice. And this would make, you know, this individual, the harasser, really angry, and he would come on there and make his comments. And sometimes if those people that were baited and commented, if they went by their real name, that was just more for him. He would just go after them. And that's what happened to me. Because I was unsuspecting. I didn't say, you know, I just thought this is the truth. These are screenshots. So I felt kind of protected in that, you know, free to make these comments. But that just opened the door for him to come after me some more. When this first happened, the first year, probably 2013, I started reading some of these blogs, and one person who, she was actually in communication with this person all the time, and it was very public. I actually emailed her a couple times. We tossed back emails. And I actually, that first year, 2013, I started contacting people, just shooting them an email. And one of them was a woman had a blog called Banana Puke. And I sent her an email, and she sent one back to me. And then as time went on, she just took the blog down, and she said she was just done with it. She was just so burned out on the whole thing. I emailed her, and I wanted to make sure you're okay because your blog is down. And she said, yeah, I just can't do this anymore. I'm just disappearing off the internet for a while. And that was the end of that. And I also contacted another person who was really prominent in some of these Google results, an older woman who was a homeless advocate. She's done a lot of work in the homeless field. She's an author, written books about homelessness and things like that. And she was just viciously harassed to the point where her livelihood, her life's work was destroyed. This person, I mean, if I'm not doing this for myself, I'm doing it for her. This was just so brutal. The things that he did to her just ruined her. But anyway, I contacted Peter John Ross, and we have had a pretty, ongoing relationship on the internet, just messaging back and forth, at different times. I would see something on the internet that I felt that Peter should know about, and I would just let him know, and he would do the same. We just kept each other apprised of what was happening. And actually, that's been ongoing, like probably 3 or 4 years maybe. We've been in contact with each other. I've also made comments on Diane Diamond's articles, and I've messaged her too on Facebook, and we've talked about this person and how he harassed her. And there's a lot of documentation there that is on the internet, open and free for all to see. There's one in particular, I have some screenshots, but I also have an email. This was probably, I think, in 2015. I sent an email to the LA County District Attorney, and I just told him who I was and that I was contacted by this person by different names, and he just was relentless. And, and he sent me an email back that he thanked me for the information and that he was looking into it. And I also, somewhere, I wrote an article, not an article, but a message actually to the San Bernardino Sun, thinking that maybe, this was just like little efforts that I was trying to do on my own, and I was just all by myself. This person had written, he did a change.org thing where he wanted, I don't know what his role was. He was some kind of a law enforcement person for Los Angeles County. His name was Ernest Hal Collins. So he was the harasser was accusing him of stalking and harassing him. So he was calling for an investigation on this, change.org form. So I sent those links to this prosecutor too, so he could have some basic information about, what was going on, who this person was. So this was just, these are some of the people that I haven't named everybody. I'm not going to, I don't want to name everybody that I monitored. I don't want to say I just kind of, in a way, I guess you could say, in monitoring behavior, running across all these other different people and just following their stories too, and, seeing how similar their experiences were to mine. And his modus operandi is basically the same. baiting and, then stalking and harassing, and somehow he gets some kind of great pleasure from doing these things. Personally, I've seen over the years, so the last 5.5 years or so, I've probably seen 100 people go through this. I'm not exaggerating. I'm sure that the others will say the same thing. With myself, I needed to make sure I knew what he was up to. Like every week, every couple of weeks, I would have to check in. Just the fact that I never knew when he was going to come back. So I was always on the lookout so I could be ready to duck. And a lot of times I just, he would just catch me off guard. And it's almost like he had a list of people, because I would notice he would do this to me, and then he would do it to the next person on the list. Maybe that would be Peter. Then he would do it to Diane. He just picked, and then maybe Erin Brockovich, he would pick her. It was just like a long list of people he would run down, and I knew my turn was going to come again. I took the news page down. I got rid of the website. I made my presence online really small, and now my personal Facebook page is, I don't think people could find me. Well, maybe they could, but I had to take my old one down because it was a target. And just, I'm very familiar with the ways that people abuse other people. As, a product of domestic abuse myself as a child, growing up in an abusive household. My parents were abusive to each other, and they were abusive to us, too, especially me being the oldest. Even to the point of, when I was 15, my dad murdered my mom, and then he committed suicide. And so that was all that violence and domestic, abuse all my life, and that was the culmination of it. It happened in Detroit in the 60s. It was really kind of an unheard of thing back then, but it's, a long time ago, and I'm a much stronger person now, probably because of that. But I've seen a lot of abusive situations, all kinds of abuse. I know that domestic abusers there's all kinds, not just punching, stabbing, kicking. There's, verbal abuse, even financial abuse. Because I have learned so much about that, I kind of spot this kind of stuff. I don't think you have to be a psychologist to learn about. People need to learn at a very young age, and we don't. We didn't get that. So a lot of us are really vulnerable to these kinds of people. These are predators. And some of us are really nice people. We think that we're nice, so everybody else must be nice too. But after the incident that I experienced at the age of 15, it actually took me a good 10 years to get myself back together. But at the same time, there were parts that I wasn't getting, which actually I think made me a target for more. It kind of made me a magnet for people whose motives were not so pure. They would see I was just trying to be a nice person, and a nice, good, strong person, not really realizing there were a lot of people out there that don't have your best interest at heart, that they are after something. And it did trigger some serious fear. The psychological tactics that he was using initially really, really upset me. But there's some big thing out there that is coming after me. Kind of like when you're a kid and there's, trauma and abuse is going on around you. It's this big monster that you can't control. It's just, And so I believe I had some of those kind of feelings initially. And as I said, I had another admin on the Akron News page who absolutely refuses to do anything, have anything to do with this. I can't even mention the person's name. They were so upset by what this person did that, that was how they chose to handle it and deal with it. Every time he came after me, the first several times, I really thought, wow, this guy seems to have some kind of power, some kind of authority, and this is really going to affect me in real life. After a while, I think because I've just gotten stronger, just because of life and the things that come at you, I've just learned how to take him in stride. As long as I just kind of ignore him, he's not my world. He is, just some little evil entity out there, But what gets me, though, is the way he affects and continues to affect other people. I really have a strong sense of, justice. And even if not for myself, I really want to see some justice done. These other people are innocent. I mean, they never deserve to be treated the way this, I don't know what happened to him and his wife. But probably a lot of really bad things happened to make him so wicked. Because he's not just a sick person, he's evil. And, I really think that this thing is escalating. It has been escalating as long as I've been aware of it. And he takes on people who are well-known, who are out there and well-known in the world. He takes on waitresses and cooks, and little people. It doesn't even matter who you are. If you're a nice, empathetic person, if he can't have it, he does not want you to have it either. So he will do what he can do to try and destroy that thing and you in the process. And I believe that's how he is. When it comes to Peter John Ross, he is jealous because Peter is doing a lot of really good things as far as film and, having TV shows. And if you can't be doing that, he is going to destroy it. So in the last year and a half or 2 years, he hasn't come after me that much. He came after the magazine that I distribute for, the Devil Strip magazine in Akron. He came after that page. He smeared my name all over. Of course, my boss is a really cool guy, and he just, yeah, you're just a jerk. Get out of here. You got the wrong people. We're not playing this game kind of thing. The last time he bothered me was in February of 2018. And it was just a little small reference at trying to, I think he found my new Facebook page, and he was trying to befriend me under all these fake profiles, which looked just like his old fake profiles. So I knew exactly what to look for because I've been watching him do this so long. Well, around that time that he started doing that, I discovered this other news source. I don't even remember how I found it, but it was MBVR. It's the MB Victims Resources. We who have been harassed, we all have our own sets of, we probably have hundreds and hundreds, thousands of screenshots. Well, this was really huge. Here was, somebody putting together a huge, gigantic file, a record of, almost all the harassment that he's done. And you can do a search. You can find, a certain subject and just search. So you don't have to go through screenshot by screenshot. This is a huge, a vast, like a library of information on this individual, and it's all screenshots from things that he has done. He has actually done and said these things to people. I brought Twinkle Toy Marmoset back to life. She has her own Facebook page that is kind of casually, it's dedicated to the victims of cyberbullying. And there's various articles about cyberbullying and how it's affected different people, what they've gone through, what the laws are, what people can legally do. But that page is Twinkle Toad Marmoset, and so she's back to life. So my advice right now, after everything that I've gone through and I've watched all these other people go through, if you are approached, attacked, or harassed by this individual or anybody that is, cyberbullying or harassing, you need to take screenshots. Screenshot everything. Don't respond. That just gives them more fuel. Take these screenshots and make them public. Send them into the MBVR, and eventually, they'll be able to catch up with him because, I do have some compassion still left. I think he's just a really sick individual, and I hope that he would get some kind of help. I don't think he will unless it's like court ordered. But I think this thing is escalating as I've watched it over the years. It just gets worse and worse, bigger and bigger. Eventually he's going to do something or cause something really horrific to happen. Because, he's doing a lot of damage. And I've seen him do this, on more than one occasion.